Hello folks, welcome back. Whether you're a reveller of rock, a pursuer of pop or a master of Motown, we've got you covered. This is Amazing Music Stories, where we peel back the layers of our favourite songs to reveal the interesting, funny and sometimes bizarre stories that lie behind them. Today we explore Eric Clapton's love and angst classic Layla, an intriguing and complex story that somehow manages to marry 12th century Persian poetry with love triangles of rock royalty. We'll explore both the inspiration behind the song and the real reason Clapton wrote it. But before we dive in, hit the like button, click subscribe and ding the bell so you never miss a magical musical tale. Now let's scratch the surface and uncover the legend that is Layla. If someone delves within a lover's heart, he'll find the loved one in its deepest part. But why, they asked him from among the two, it's Layla who's been cut away, not you. It's wrong, he said, for her to be the cover that hides within itself this ardent lover. I am the veil for what should be internal. I am the outer shell, she is the kernel. Those are words from Nizami Ganjavi's epic poem, Layla Majnun, a tale of a young man named Hais who meets a beautiful girl, Layla, who he falls completely and utterly in love with. He can't stop thinking about her, and his obsession leads people to name him Majnun, a nickname which means crazy. When Hais professes his love and proposes to Layla, her father forbids the union, thinking that he is actually crazy. Layla marries another man, and Majnun, heartbroken, completely loses the plot, running off into the desert where he wanders alone. Layla then becomes ill and dies of a broken heart, whilst Majnun suffers a similar fate and is found dead near her grave. A copy of this story was given to Clapton by his friend Ian Dallas, and he was deeply moved by it, and it inspired him to write the song Layla. But the song isn't about the fictional couple. Clapton identified with the tale because it identified with his own feelings of forbidden love, and that's where the real story of Layla lies. During the 60s, whilst a member of the Yardbirds, Clapton had struck up a friendship with Beatles lead guitarist George Harrison. The pair became increasingly close, with Clapton even playing the guitar solo on Beatles' track While My Guitar Gently Weeps. The pair became ever more frequent visitors at each other's houses. As they spent more and more time together, Clapton began to develop this secret infatuation with George's wife, the model Pattie Boyd, who Harrison met on the set of the Beatles film A Hard Day's Night. Clapton initially tried to suppress his feelings, even dating Pattie's sister Paula. But the relationship didn't last, and he grew more and more obsessed with Harrison's wife. In 1970, Clapton even admitted the fact to his best friend, saying, "I have to tell you, man, I'm in love with your wife." And so, Layla was Clapton's musical move on Boyd. It's a plea for her to leave Harrison and instead fall deeply in love with him. But Pattie remained apparently unaware of Clapton's infatuation, to the point that when he wrote her a soul-bearing letter declaring his feelings, she mistook it as yet another fan letter from one of Harrison's obsessed Beatles brigade. Although Layla didn't win Pattie's heart and deliver her to Clapton in the way he had hoped, the pair did eventually end up together. Maybe ironically, George Harrison had his own Layla and Majnun story, falling for Maureen Starkey, the wife of his former bandmate Ringo Starr, which ultimately led to the end of Harrison and Boyd's marriage. Shortly after, Clapton and Boyd got together, marrying in 1979. However, the relationship was tumultuous and eventually broke down, with Boyd revealing that she believes that Clapton's obsession with her was really just a symptom of Eric and George's competitiveness, with Clapton wanting what Harrison had. Surprisingly, the relationships between the three Romeos in this bizarre love hexagon endured, with Harrison remaining friends with both Clapton and Starr. Music fans seemingly have a lot to thank Pattie Boyd for. As well as being the muse behind Layla, she also inspired the Beatles track Something, George Harrison's So Sad, and yet more Clapton tracks such as Wonderful Tonight and Bell Bottom Blues. Whilst these labours of love that drove the classic lyrics of Layla are truly intriguing, the story wouldn't be complete without talking about the equally interesting stories behind its music. The first is the development of the unmistakable and iconic guitar riff that opens the record and is instantly recognisable. It was created by Clapton's bandmate, guitarist Dwayne Allman. Allman drew inspiration for this classic piece of guitar work from another song, Albert King's blues track, As the Years Go Passing By. But it wasn't the guitar in that track that led to the creation of the lick. Instead, that inspiration came from the 7 opening notes of the vocal melody sung by King. There's further intrigue amongst the origins of Layla's famous piano part, with this also being tangled in the relationship of one of the musicians. Clapton himself has revealed that the piano piece wasn't initially intended for Layla. Whilst recording the album, it transpired that the band's drummer, Jim Gordon, had been secretly sneaking back to the studio to record his own album. The band caught him one day whilst he was playing the now famous refrain on the ivories and convinced him to let them use it in Layla. But the story doesn't finish there. The keyboardist, Bobby Whitlock, who was a member of the band The Dominoes, has told of how he was asked to collaborate on a song with Jim Gordon and his girlfriend Rita Coolidge, which she had written, called Time. It transpires that the melody Eric and his bandmates had heard Jim playing was in fact allegedly taken by Jim from his girlfriend, but he didn't credit her with it, something Rita has also claimed in her book Delta Lady. And there it is, a tale of how different stories of love and deceit collided to bring us arguably one of the most classic rock tracks of all time. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about the many different amazing music stories that had to come together in order that we could hear Clapton's iconic track Layla. If there are any amazing music stories you'd like to see covered on the channel, do let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Amazing Music Stories.